You found the Iron Rebel, a military sci-fi saga of war, exile, and political deception. If that sounds like your kind of story, hit subscribe and give this video a like. It helps the story reach new rebels like you. Chapter 3. The Political Divide. Velora Prime's Senate chamber was a masterpiece of grandeur and authority, designed to inspire both awe and accountability. The circular hall was an architectural triumph, its tiered seating rising in concentric rings that encased the central speaker's dais like a grand amphitheater. Golden railings adorned each tier, their polished surfaces gleaming under the glow of soft, recessed lighting. Every word spoken in the chamber was carried with precision, amplified and clarified by an intricate web of acoustics that made even the faintest whisper audible to all. It was a space built for debate, decision-making, and the drama of power. Above, a domed ceiling captured the majesty of the Confederation's interstellar reach. A holographic star map shimmered in the darkness, its galaxies and constellations glowing faintly. Planets connected by pulsating light beams symbolized the Confederation's unity, a unity now at risk as political tensions began to simmer. Senator Vale sat near the front of the chamber, his wiry frame draped in the understated elegance of a dark suit. His piercing grey eyes darted from one face to the next, gauging the mood of the assembly with practiced precision. Vale's sharp features and calculating demeanor marked him as a man who thrived in the shadows of politics, orchestrating outcomes with surgical precision. At his side sat Senator Senators Vale and Tal, her striking presence commanding attention even in this room of luminaries. Her auburn hair framed a face that could transition from serene to fiery instantly, and her voice, both resonant and cutting, was her greatest weapon. Tal was known for her impassioned oratory, capable of rousing even the most disinterested crowd to action. Vale leaned back slightly, his lips curling into a faint smirk. "This cannot stand," he said, his voice low but firm, meant for Tal's ears alone. Marcius Kane is a general, not a leader. His methods may have won the war, but they're incompatible with the needs of a fragile confederation. Tal nodded, her expression unflinching. "The people are blinded by their adoration," she said, her tone laced with disdain. "They see him as a savior, not the danger he truly represents. Militarism has no place in governance, Arden. If we let him gain power, the Senate will become nothing more than a puppet to the military." Vale's smirk deepened, his grey eyes narrowing. "Then we must remind the people who Marcius Kane truly is. His record as a general is far from untarnished. Let's leverage his disdain for politics and his battlefield ruthlessness. The narrative writes itself." Tal's lips curled into a sly smile, her eyes glinting with resolve. "Leave the public sentiment to me. I'll make sure they hear the truth, or at least our version of it. We'll plant the seeds of doubt, and the people will do the rest." Their whispered conversation was drowned out by the rising din of the chamber, as other senators took their places. Yet, even in the noise, Vale and Tal's conspiracy was already taking shape, the first moves in a calculated game of political chess. Across the chamber, the holographic star map twinkled, a silent reminder of the Confederation's vastness and fragility. The same map that had once symbolized unity now seemed to underscore the divisions spreading within this hallowed space. Meanwhile, Marcius met with a coalition of governors and industrial leaders in one of Velora Prime's many private chambers. Unlike the Senate chamber's grandeur, this room was stark in its design. Its walls, lined with matte grey panels, were adorned only by a single emblem of the Confederation in silver relief. The lighting was functional rather than decorative, casting an even white glow illuminating every corner. The table, a long slab of black composite, was surrounded by high-backed chairs upholstered in subdued grey, a deliberate contrast to the opulence elsewhere in the capital. Seated at the head of the table, Marcius cut an imposing figure. His dark uniform was immaculate, the silver insignia of his rank catching the light as he leaned forward. His sharp gaze swept across the room, silently assessing the assembly before him. It was a varied group: planetary governors with vested interests in their regions, corporate magnates whose fortunes had swelled during the war, and a handful of high-ranking military officials who observed from the periphery. Governor Tress Alvian, A stern woman with sharp features and a voice honed by years of authority was the first to speak. "We've lost 3 key systems to unrest since the war ended," she began, her tone clipped and impatient. "The people demand stability, General. They need to see action." Marcius's reply was as blunt as his demeanor. "Then give it to them. Governors are the backbone of the Confederation's governance. If your systems are in chaos, it's your responsibility to restore order." A murmur of discontent rippled through the room, the tension thickening. Industrial magnate Jorin Drax leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he spoke. "With respect, General, these are not military problems. They require diplomacy, negotiation, skills that might not come naturally to someone with your background." Marcius turned his steely gaze on Drax, his voice icy. "I'm not here to coddle systems that can't stand on their own. The Confederation needs strength, not endless debate. If you can't handle that, perhaps your interests lie elsewhere." The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of Marcius's words hanging in the air. Some in the room admired his directness, viewing it as the decisive leadership the Confederation needed in its time of fragility. Others bristled at his lack of diplomacy, seeing in him a leader unfit for the subtleties of governance. From the corner of the room, a quiet but firm voice broke the tension. "What Marcius is saying," interjected Governor Jalawin, her tone measured and conciliatory, "is that leadership in these times requires decisiveness. But we must also recognize the need for unity." "Divided will fall." Marcius gave a curt nod of acknowledgement, his tone softening slightly. "Unity is essential, but unity without action is meaningless." The conversation continued, but the lines between allies and skeptics became clearer with every exchange. As the meeting adjourned, the factions became clearer. Some left the chamber convinced that Marcius Kane was the leader the Confederation needed, unyielding, fearless, and decisive. Others were left with doubts, concerned that his battlefield mentality would bring more division than unity. In the shadows of the Senate chamber, Vale and Tal watched as the pieces moved into place. Their plan to discredit Marcius was only beginning, and the political divide within the Confederation was growing ever wider. This chapter of the Iron Rebel comes to a close, but the war is far from over. If the story spoke to you, leave a like. It fuels the rebellion. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. New episodes drop every week. Until next time, stay sharp, stay defiant.